Hi there, very good morning. You've joined us bright and early this Monday morning here on this live broadcast on Moneycontrol. You're watching Newspresso with me, Stacy Pereira. And as the drill goes, in the next few minutes, we're going to be giving you a lowdown of all the top stories from across the globe, insights into India, and also the latest trends that'll give you an edge and keep you informed ahead of the others. So let's get straight to it and bring you all that we're getting from our global dispatch. Well, stocks have ended on a volatile session, but higher on Friday as investors digested those comments from the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell that the U.S. Central Bank may indeed need to raise interest rates further to ensure that inflation is contained. Now, the major U.S. indices, which started the day off on solid gains, alternated between extending as well as paring those gains as for much of that session. We did see the Dow Jones rising by about 247 odd points, S&P 500 gaining over 0.5%, whereas the Nasdaq also up close to 1%. Now, in fact, for the week, we saw the Nasdaq that was up about 2.3%, ending its 3-week streak of losses. But let's look and focus on what Powell really said. Well, that much anticipated morning speech at the Economic Policy Symposium at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, is what markets are likely to be reacting and are currently reacting to. He did acknowledge that price pressures have eased and that he is pleased with how far the monetary policy has come and how inflation has in fact been reduced now. The Fed chairperson's tone was though somewhat hawkish, but he maintained that the central bank would carefully proceed on tightening based on data. Let's listen in to what his comments were all about.
These uncertainties, both old and new, complicate our task of balancing the risk of tightening monetary policy too much against the risk of tightening too little. Doing too little could allow above target inflation to become entrenched and ultimately require monetary policy to wring more persistent inflation from the economy at a high cost to employment. At upcoming meetings, we will assess our progress based on the totality of the data and the evolving outlook and risks. Based on this assessment, we will proceed carefully as we decide whether to tighten further or instead to hold the policy rate constant and await further data.
And data is definitely going to be a focus for the Fed, but that's how even European markets then closed quite mixed on Friday as traders were reacting pretty much to those comments from Jerome Powell. The Pan-European Stock 600 there ended flat in that session, pairing its earlier gains, whereas most of the sectors and bourses pointed in opposite directions. In the stock-specific action, though, in the Euro region, we did see Novo Nordisk, that shares were down about 1.3% as it plans to launch its weight loss drug, Wegovy, in more countries. Now, the shares of others like Watches of Switzerland, that group plunged about 20% after the luxury watchmaker Rolex announced a deal to buy watch retailer Boschera. Now, also in markets in the Asia-Pacific region, where they are reacting to Jerome Powell's speech, this morning, of course, and are trading pretty much in the green there. Now, mainland Chinese stocks are leading the gains in the region, with the SI 300 surging almost 3.27%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng too has jumped by about 2.4% in the morning. Japan's Nikkei 25 has climbed by 0.93%. South Korea's Kospi is trading there higher by close to 0.5 percentage point, whereas Australia's S&P ASX 200 is also up close to 0.5 percentage point this morning. Well, let's look at the economic side of things. And in the Asia-Pacific region, especially China's cabinet on Friday went ahead and approved guidelines for planning and construction of affordable housing at their meeting that was chaired by Premier Li Qiang. Now, the Chinese property sector is in a deepening crisis with the rising risk of default among some of its developers as they struggle to sell apartments as well as raise funds. Now, China's central bank announced guidances for relaxing residential housing loan rules in a move aimed to boost that loan application as well as house purchases. Now, the government also said that it will be extending that personal income tax rebates for people who buy new homes within 1 year after selling their own homes. This will be extended up till 2025. Remember, on August 15, the central bank made its steepest cut in 3 years to key interest rates in order to provide some stimulus. Interestingly, indebted property developer Evergrande, those shares have plunged as much as 87% this morning as trading resumed after 17 long months. Remember, Evergrande Group last traded on the Hong Kong exchange on 18th of March of 2022. So not a very good comeback for Evergrande, and that expected so because the realty sector there in China is really seeing some bit of a crisis. But let's also give you a recap of all the trading action that we saw on the Lal Street, where we did see a Nifty ending about 0.6% lower on Friday, continuing that downward trend for the second consecutive session. Though the Nifty has managed to take support around that 19,230, around 19,250 levels, we could say, whereas the Sensex too closing below that crucial 65,000 mark. Now, on the weekly basis, the Nifty Sensex both clocked their fifth straight week of losses, whereas the broader markets too have succumbed to selling pressure. In fact, if you look at all the sectoral indices, those two ended in the red, led by PSU as well as pharma stocks. Now, among the stocks that you need to be keeping out on your radar today, well, RIL because of its AGM. You also have a Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers, this after they've signed an MOU with the Dempo Group, whereas Saskin Technologies, that will also be on your focus as they get a new CEO in Devanshu Kumar. So a lot of stock action that is expected today, and we'll be getting you all of those reactions. But also let's tell you a little bit more from the primary market segment. Well, we are seeing a flurry of activity there, and this week is no different. We're going to see 4 different IPOs worth about 500 odd crores opening for subscription, as well as 6 stocks that are scheduled for listing on the bourses. Now, one among them is going to be Rishabh Instruments, which will be one of the first from the main board segment, launching its maiden public issue on August 30th. Infrastructure company Vishnu Prakash Pugalia, that one will also open, that already opened on August 24th and will be closing in fact today. So far the issue has been subscribed about 10.63 times with support from all kind of investors. Now, stainless steel, that one, finished sheets, the makers of those, that is called Ratnaveer Precision Engineering. That will be another launch in its IPO, which we'll be seeing by the end of this week. Among the listings on the main board, we also have a Pyramid Technoplast as well as Aeroflex Industries, both of which will be debuting this week. Now, as for the SME segment, 3 public issues which will be launched next week. That is a subscription for Mono Pharmacare, CPS, Shapers, as well as VFX Studio, Basilic Fly Studios will be launched all in this week. As for the 3 IPOs, all 3 of them are going to be comprising of only their fresh issues in the SME segment. So a lot to be looking forward to in terms of action in the primary markets. And to that big event that we're looking forward today, of course, it's Index Heavyweight Reliance Industries' 46th Annual General Meeting or AGM, which will take place today, and investors will be eyeing for a slew of major announcements, as has always been the case in the last few AGMs, where announcements like the Jio 5G rollout or the entry into the green energy business took center stage. Now, even though the oil to chemicals or O2C segment still forms the biggest chunk for the conglomerate's revenues. So what can shareholders expect? Well, yes, we can see investors are eagerly going to be awaiting for value unlocking in the telecom as well as retail divisions of Reliance. Analysts, our investors are also expecting to know more from the Jio Financial Services after that demerger and new listing, and what strategy they are going to take going forward. They will be likely to get more answers on that. Also from the 5G plans and from the green energy businesses, what is likely to come up. Let's also not forget the expansion plans when it comes to Reliance Retail Ventures. Remember, it was only last week that Qatar Investment Authorities has acquired a small stake in the company, but then jumping its valuations to about $100 billion. So a lot to be looking forward to and a lot of answers that shareholders are expecting from this. Well, we will be getting you all those details, of course, here to know where and exactly what we're going to get from that. And all of those details will be here live at 2 o'clock is when we're likely to hear from the management of Reliance Industries. So come straight back here for all those updates. I'll also get you some updates from the startup space then, where India has finally got a new unicorn, the first one for 2023. And this comes in quick commerce firm Zepto, which has raised about $200 million at a valuation of $1.4 billion. Now, India's 11-month-long unicorn drought has finally ended, one could say. Of course, the total amount raised was about $105 million, and that has come from Stepstone Group as well as Good Waters, both of these which are new investors in the Mumbai-based company, whereas its existing investors like Nexus Venture Partners, Gladebrook as well as others have put in that remaining $95 million. And now with the moon landing done, it seems like Chandrayaan 3's rovers conducting all those experiments there on the moon. But scientists at the Indian Space Research Centre, ISRO, have shifted their focus, and their next target is likely the sun. Now, the Aditya L1, India's first space observatory for the solar research, that one is getting ready for launch at the country's main spaceport, that is Sriharikota. The satellite is ready and already reached Sriharikota, is what we believe. But the final date for that launch of Aditya L1 will be announced in a day or two. This according to ISRO's chief S. Somnath. Now, speculations arrive that the event is expected to take place in the first week of September, with the space agency targeting a September 2nd launch for this. Aditya L1 will be hitching a ride on India's heavy-duty launch vehicle, the PSLV, and will travel about 1.5 million kilometers to provide remote observations of the solar corona, as well as study the solar atmosphere and the solar winds. And well, in another step towards making X that everything app that Elon Musk really wants to, he's now launching a new job hiring feature that will be available exclusively for verified organizations. Those that have a blue tick, they will be able to post their job listings on their profile. Now, X has entered almost that beta version for this hiring app in the feature that can really challenge job hunt websites like LinkedIn, Indeed, and even Monster. Now, X will be charging a monthly fee of around $1,000 and to avail this feature, and the verified organizations will be able to avail this. Now, images were shared by X Hiring shows that X accounts that have listed jobs on their profiles, so that the companies participating in the X Hiring program can go ahead and list for job positions. And from one tech to the other, we saw Apple founder Steve Jobs' handwritten advertisement of the Apple I computer, which was recently sold in an auction for about $175,000. That has made that roughly converts to about 1.4 crore rupees. That is what it really sold for. Now, the handwritten advertisement details the features of the Apple I computer, as well as Jobs' signature, and also includes his parents' address listed on the ad. Now, that's where all the action for Apple really began. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, the Apple I was that 8-bit desktop computer designed by Apple and was launched back in 11th of April 1976. And it is known that both Steve Wozniak as well as Steve Jobs sold their respective valuables in order to fund this project. Now, the computer has had a starting price of $666.66 and a feature that MOS 6502 processor that clocked a 1 megahertz. Now, the production of this desktop computer was stopped back in September of 30th, 1977, a few months after Apple introduced the Apple II. And indeed a proud moment for India, because Neeraj Chopra has made history once again, clinching India's first ever World Cup Athletics Championship gold medal in the finals of the men's Javelin event in Budapest. Now, the 88.17 meters throw of his second attempt proved to be that winner, while the 83.98 was his final attempt. But that did not matter, as that second throw gave him that significant lead, getting us the goal for India. Meanwhile, India's men's team will be competing in the 4x400 meter relay finals. The quartet of Mohammad Anas, Amoj Jacob, Mohammad Ajmal, as well as Rajesh Ramesh set that new Asian record of 2 minutes 59.05 seconds on Saturday to advance to that finals of the event. India gave the world record holders Americans a run for their money, finishing closely behind them. In fact, even Prime Minister Modi tweeted congratulating the quartet, saying that this will be remembered as a triumphant comeback, truly a historical one for Indian athletics. And let's tell you all that you need to be looking forward to in today's day and trade. Well, we of course already told you about the RIL AGM, so that's something that is going to be on all investors' radar. But we also have the government that has called for a meeting between states as well as bank officials. This is to converge on the PM Vishwakarma scheme. Now, this will happen today, and remember, the government hopes to launch this Vishwakarma scheme with an allocation of about 13,000 to 15,000 crore rupees on September 17th, which is also the Prime Minister's birthday. And this will actually give a boost to traditional skills. Prime Minister Modi said, announced this Vishwakarma scheme during his Independence Day speech. So that is something on what they really plan to do with this scheme, is details of what this meeting is going to be all about. But globally, we're also hearing that Donald Trump's hearing about that election subvention case, that was also going to happen later today, of course, in American time, will continue in that U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. Remember, the judge is expected to set a trial date in today's hearing. So that will be an important point to be looking forward to. Remember, he is the 2024 presidential candidate as well. So a lot of what that will have a bearing really from what the courtroom really has to say. Well, with that, it is a wrap, and hope this dose of Newspresso is useful and informative and gives you that kick start to your day. It's just a Monday. We have a lot more ahead all through the week, but don't forget to come back here tomorrow, same place, same time, for your fresh shot of Newspresso. From all of us that put this show together, thanks so much for tuning in.
How do world leaders view India?
I've long believed that the relationship between the United States and India is will be one of the defining relationships of the 21st century.
The bright spot of the global economy.
The growth rate for India, which is 6.8 in 2022. Let's not forget, this is one of the bright spots in the global economy right now, such a high growth rate.
The potential of India is enormous, and you have now a reformer, a radical reformer, who has the ability to transform it.
On the verge of a big transformation.
इस अमृत काल में हमारे संकल्पों की सिद्धि हमें आजादी के 100 वर्ष तक ले जाएगी.
A magnet for investment.
I'm actually incredibly excited about the future of India. I think India has more promise than any large country in the world.
The world is bullish on India. Moneycontrol is bullish on India. Join the campaign. Tweet to us with #MC Bullish on India.